Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to Synchronicity Web TV. I am your host, Nadiya Shah, and this is your moment of synchronicity. Well, I'm so excited to celebrate with you today, Annabel Quintero. Now, Annabel is somebody that I got to know at first because a few years back, she took my class at Kepler College. And right from the beginning, she just brought so much presence and wisdom, and she had this determination to share something that was so pure within her and to understand how to do that from a perspective of being able to utilize whatever it is, social media or just her being herself and her embodiment. And over the years, I've seen her really share that much more, and I've loved her content online. And it is Annabel that does this incredible way of which she presents Indigenous wisdom and how she brings that to an understanding of world events, of astrology, and so much more, which is why I really wanted her to come to Synchronicity University. And it is Annabel that is coming to Synchronicity University as part of the July 2025 speaker series. As this interview is publishing, you've got a couple of weeks, I think a couple of days left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class to learn from Annabel. I think we're going to love this talk, and I think you're going to love the conversation I have with her here today. Annabel, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, Nadiya. It's such an honor.
Well,
Hi,
I've been so proud to watch you just shining and being out into the world and sharing, and it just always feels really pure, like what you put out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a journey to get there, but when you think about like your life experiences and that so many people are going through other things as well, that is what propels me. It's like, okay, people need to hear this so they can also share their own story as well.
So I would love to learn more about the Indigenous tradition that you feel very connected to, that you bring forward in your work. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So my parents are from Ecuador, South America, and I'm multiracial. I'm Indigenous, Southern European, and African. And I'd say my mom taking me to Machu Picchu when I was like 2, 3 years old, just seeing the pictures and feeling a connection to the Andes Mountains was always present. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, so we also have so many mountains over here, which is such a beautiful sacred land. And so throughout the years, just always learning about the Incan culture and then seeing the different comunidades, as we call them. Sometimes up in North America, we call them tribes. And so seeing the different regalia and finally in 2020, when I was writing my book, a teacher appeared, Mary Lou Shin, and she practices the Q'ero tradition and started taking her classes and really experiencing that, building a relationship with elements, building a relationship with Mother Earth. And so that helped me also to unlock so much that I needed to heal at the time. And yeah, from then on, I've been practicing the Q'ero tradition, and it's just been amazing to be a student in it and to have it give me answers that I need so that I can also help other people with their life journey.
And so the elements, what's fascinating is, of course, so much of traditional wisdom, indigenous wisdom from around the world, they understood the sacredness of the elements. And one of the few, certainly in the Western world, one of the few really surviving practices as part of mass culture is astrology, because astrology is also rooted in the elements as well. That's how we place the different signs and even the planetary energies to a certain extent as well. Now, can you talk about the elements as you understand them in the context of the Q'ero tradition?
Sure. I've learned them connected to the directions. So each direction has a medicine to help you connect with that element. So like the southern direction, that is earth element. And so this is when you're in the southern direction, that's the time when you are in your shadow, when you are facing the things you don't want people to really know about yourself, right? And it's also a place of like rooting and growing your roots. And so so it's south, west, north, east. We kind of go in that direction. And so the west is fire, north is air, and east is water.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, just, I mean, I would love to learn more of the perspective of what those different elements actually represent symbolically, because I know maybe there's a similarity, you can tell me, but I know astrologically and even in tarot as well, we see the elements forming the base of that wisdom. But like west is water, is emotion, right? And fire is south, and it is passion and creativity. Air is east, and it is mind and intellect. North is earth, and it is earth represents practicality, embodiment, right? So that's like sort of a little bit of how I understand it astrologically. Can we go through the elements maybe and talk about how the Q'ero tradition understands the different elements?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
From what I've known, right?
Of course, yeah.
I'm being the leader and the student at the same time. So the southern direction is earth element, and we also associate it with the serpent, and that's the time of really, as you know, the serpents are on the ground, right? And always doing that work of shedding its skin to be reborn. And so the south and earth is like a time to really ground yourself into a place where you can be self-aware and always having that ability and working on shedding the parts of your ego, shedding the parts of the habits or the things that are holding you back so that you can be reborn again. The West is fire. So it's all about being demonstrative and like taking what you learned from the South and actually leading and moving forward in consequence. And so in the West, the animal that's associated is the puma, is a jaguar, and they are known for tracking. And so especially in the jungle, you can't really see. And so you have to really discern where you're going to make a path. So the fire element, I'd say, is your presence really being that charting that path just because you're there, right? Like fire just is, when you watch it, it's so powerful, but it gives you that strength to lead. And so the West is about leadership. The North, same, is air element and is more connected to the apus, like the top of the mountains. And really the top of the mountains is where a place that we honor, we usually bring an offering because the energy up there, it's called Aini, and pristine, clear energy is what allows us to really settle in and bring that good energy into our bodies and then of course be more balanced in how we show up in the world. And so the air element, the North, it allows us to have clarity of mind, but to also receive the downloads to a higher consciousness, even sometimes our dreams. So in bringing those dreams to the Middle Earth, we call it Kai Pacha. And then the East is the water element and much more about emotions and how to really accept and embrace that original language that we were born with, and to not drown so much in emotions, but really swim and float on the oceans of emotions, to really embrace the sensitivities. And the Q'ero tradition, one of the things that the three principles that they believe are really equal to each other and important is working, wisdom, and Munai, love. And so the love being just as important as working and wisdom. And I always think about that because especially with emotions. I think sometimes in the West, we tend to, not be emotional. We tend to equate being emotionally led with having emotions, and that's what allows us to be human. So I love that in the Q'ero tradition, there's a lot of ceremonies and offerings to be filled up with love and to lead with love. And that love is so important to humanity.
Wow. Love is the creative force, isn't it?
It is.
We call it
really
different
is.
things and we understand it or experience it differently. But at the end of the day, that really is the creative force. I mean, some of us have a really upside down understanding of that and how we bring it forward. But that is what helps us to create, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, bring forward our best of who we are as humanity, as humans. I love that. And, I love to travel. I love indigenous wisdoms, especially in the Americas. I feel so connected to them. And that really inspires a lot of my travels to learn more about that. And, putting the official wisdoms and the teachings aside, I will say this, that when I do travel, it's amazing how many people just want a moment to feel like they shared a moment of love. A moment of usefulness is a way that you give someone love. A moment of listening to someone is a way that you give someone love. I'll tell you something between you and me and all the people watching this. That is, I always say, it's a bit of a joke, but I always say that Uber drivers fall in love with me. And that is because I ask them questions. I ask them for their opinion. I sometimes, where it feels appropriate, I might ask them about their lives and what they understand about who it is that they are, what their identity. If they're not from there, I'll say, what is it like for you being from where you are, being here, and all of that. And I'm already in their car, right? So their car is like an extension of their home. It's their space of safety and intimacy. And so for me to actually have that conversation with them and listen to them, that is what I think is an act of love as well, to just listen to people. And it just strikes me like humanity as a force of love. We forget that sometimes because it feels like what is on the surface and very obviously not about love, which is about desire and the type of destructive desire that we see in the world as well. It seems like that gets more of a charge, it gets more energy, it gets more attention, but there's just so much love in the world. And my hope is that, I don't know, in one way or another, we continue to magnify that. So I love that that is so much at the core of the teachings of your tradition.
Yeah, Maria Apasa, she was 95 when I had gone down to Peru to be baptized, initiated, same thing. And she, the joy, so much strength, right? But she was speaking Quechua and it was translated. And she said, our job here is to be happy. She's like, be happy. Our role here on earth is to be happy and to share that. And even with the group of students that I was with, she was also wanting us to help as many people as possible so that they could also be happy, so that they could also feel love and give love. So it was just, I had never had an elder really be so clear about our role here is to be happy, and not just happy and like self-soothing and self-medicating, but truly,
right? Thing. Yeah, that's a different thing altogether. That's pleasure, right? Pleasure is one thing. Happy is another. Happy is a force of love. Pleasure, not always. Pleasure is usually a distraction from the lack of happiness, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. I'm glad you said that. I love how, yes, that's the right word for it.
Yeah. I'm reminded of one of my favorite books. God, I've quoted this book so many times over the years in my videos. I'm so grateful to the people who keep watching me for so long, because I know they've heard me rave about this book again and again. And it's called The Road Less Traveled by Scott M. Peck. And he was saying like the lessons in this book. I mean, I read that book so many times back in the day in my formative years. And the lessons in this book, like they never cease to amaze me. Like there's a reason it became like a phenomenon in its time so many decades ago. But, one of the things he said is that love doesn't always feel easy, right? Love isn't always about the path of least resistance. In fact, it's often the opposite. Love tells the truth. And so he was saying, like, if someone actually loves you and they see you behaving in a way or doing something that they know you can do better for whatever reason, maybe you could be more ethical, maybe you could be more responsible, maybe you could be kinder, they're going to call you on it. They're going to say it. And that's a different thing than somebody who is, sort of being honest with you just as a way of actually playing some sort of a manipulative power game. That's a very different thing. But the kind of love that's honest with you stays love. It stays accepting. It stays open. And that's what real love is really about. It involves that vulnerability to know that you can go to somebody and say, hey, you were doing this and it can be better. You can be better than that. To be able to say that, but then not think that you, as the person who's calling it out, is any way responsible for it. And also not doing it as a tactic, but doing it just out of a very pure desire for wanting the best for that person. That is love. And that always struck me at how it is that we confuse ideas of happiness and pleasure, of absolute acceptance to the point of blindness, to what genuine love actually is, which is a spiritual connection and partnership, which is based on being able to see someone else as an equal without taking on their stuff. It's a radically different understanding of what love is and what happiness is. And so one of the other reasons I mentioned this is because he also says that people who actually value themselves, they practice what's called delayed gratification. So he said that, in the first session or two, he can always tell very quickly, like, at what level does this person value themselves and value their lives? And so one of the things he looks at is, like, do they come bathed? Right? Did they bathe? Are their clothes clean? Because these are markers of somebody who values themselves. And that's why if people go through depression, one of the most powerful things you can do is to just make sure you shower that day, that you've cleaned yourself, that you've made sure you've put on clothes that are clean. That can go such a long way towards your, the betterment of your mental health. But he also talks about delayed gratification, because what that is an understanding that your time and your energy and your efforts are valuable, and that there are greater rewards if you're willing to delay them, or at least sacrifice in some way now. The belief that demonstrates that it can pay off to something better, that in and of itself is a supreme act of self-love and self-value. And so it's incredible how, like, as I'm listening to you talk about these teachings, of course, because of the way my psyche is formulated with the words of Scott M. Peck, I'm bringing it back to his wisdom as well.
I love that. I love that. And even when you were talking about communication, even sharing how this behavior that you did made me feel this way. Right? So that it's not that you're not blaming the person, saying, you made me feel this way. Yeah. Right? Because we're the ones in control of our emotions, right? We decide, but that allows someone to choose to change that behavior, and being vulnerable, even to being honest with yourself, like, okay, that hurt my feelings. And then being able to be vulnerable with someone and sharing, these are all the feelings that came up when this situation happened. That level of vulnerability is how we build a stronger connection. And so communicating our feelings and communicating the nuance of them, the complexity is I think so essential for stronger relationships and for the possibility of love to just continue to grow.
I love that. And I just want to, like, reiterate once again, because I know having, like, it is something I've only mentioned a couple of times, and I back, it's a bit of a situation, or it was actually, it's no longer part of my life. But I remember like during the pandemic, I ended a relationship of 7 years. And after about 4 months of that relationship ending, I met somebody. And at first I thought that this was like a dream come true, right? Vulnerability and honesty and intimacy and all these things. But then like at around 5 months, he started getting really jealous, and then really, really jealous, and then mean. And altogether, we were together like 9 months. And the last month, he got violent, like really violent. And I remember, because I have so much empathy, because I felt like, oh, he's being so open, he's being vulnerable, and oh, he's just insecure and things like that. Because of that, I didn't realize what was happening. And then I remember the day, like it was clear as day, when I realized that this person really wants to hurt me, like physically. And this was, after a couple of weeks of, him throwing me against walls and things like that, and then crying and apologizing. And I remember like the day when he was like reaching to punch me, and I was holding him like sort of back. And I said, I don't want this. And he said, it doesn't matter what you want. And that was the click I needed to say, oh, he's psycho. Oh, this is part of a manipulation. Okay, this is a tactic. It's not that he's somebody who is bringing that level of love and honesty and openness. No, this is a tactic. This is a manipulation. And I swear, like 2 days later, I was out. And I remember the first 2 weeks, I was like really sad. And I was like raised to, my mom and my aunts were always like, always make sure that the guy respects you. Don't ever be with somebody who's not respectful and stuff. And especially physically, right? Because I had seen family members who, like, they went through domestic violence and they left, even though it was hard, even though there were so many factors against them. They ended marriages that just, showed the first signs of abuse. And so to me, at first, it was just like 2 weeks to decompress. And then I started telling everybody, like just everybody in my life. And then eventually, more recently, I started talking about it once in a while here and there in my videos and things. I think like this might be just the 4th time I've mentioned it on camera. But I do that because it really is that if it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody, because I had such a sense in me, raised by such strong women who were like, always, always, never, never, all of that. But I say that because there is a big difference. There's a huge difference. And you've got to allow yourself time to find out which it is, especially if it is someone that you're just getting to know or someone who says that they love you. And so when I'm talking about love is honest, I think if you let yourself, really have a healthy sense of detachment, you'll know the difference. You'll know, like, for example, my mom will call me on my stuff. She will. If I've spoken a certain way or I did a certain whatever, even if it was to a stranger, she will say like, that's not acceptable. It's not okay for you to talk to somebody like that. And I will do that to my dad, for example, right? My dad, especially as he's getting older, he can be cranky. And I've gone out with him and I've seen him be cranky. And I've said to him, like, Dad, it's not okay to talk to people like that. That's not. And I can see that he feels it because he loves me. Because he loves me, he's willing to listen. These are acts of love. It is a different thing when it's manipulation. And I just wanted to be crystal clear about that to everybody.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Because I don't think sometimes people would even think that is a way manipulation can even be carried out. And thank you for sharing your story too.
It's on the surface sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
Happy you're out of that.
Well, Annabel, I think you're amazing. I love your work. I love what you share. I love the wisdom that you bring and the passion that you bring, that I see online every day, because I follow you on Instagram and I like your posts. And sometimes I give you like a wave or something like that in the comments and all of that, because I just think you're so brilliant. And I'm so thrilled that you are coming to Synchronicity University. And once again, everybody, yes, Annabel is coming to Synchronicity University as part of the July 2025 speaker series where, as low as just $5 a class, you can learn from Annabel and these other incredible teachers who are coming as part of that July 2025 speaker series. You've got a little time left to choose your tuition rate. And it is going to be Annabel that's going to be talking about sacred moon phases. And I know I'm really looking forward to that as well. So, Annabel, thank you again. Thank you for being here. I adore you. I love you. Just keep shining, keep doing you. It's amazing to see.
Thank you. Love you too, Nadiya. Thank you for having me. And I can't wait to see everyone in July.
Well, thank you again, Annabel. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Until we connect again, take care. Bye.